And so I was just like, oh my gosh, are we like in a safe area or not? Because I don't even know how to know what a safe area is here. Which one of these is even the Airbnb? And we're out there and it's like 2 in the morning, pitch black, and we're just terrified. Hey you! So good to see you whether you're new or tuning in for the first time. You've clicked into my series where I tell story times about my international adventures because I have been to I think at the time of filming this, 24 plus countries, which is pretty crazy to think about. I was not in a YouTuber era at the time that I did that, so we're kind of backtracking, but I am hoping to go on lots more trips. My next upcoming one is going to be just next month, wow, in September for Iceland, so make sure you're staying tuned with me if that's something you're interested in. For today, though, we're going to be talking about Paris. Originally, this was just going to be one video about my whole Paris experience, but when I was talking to my travel companion, Angel, and we were kind of reminiscing about things, he mentioned this story that we're about to talk about today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this deserves its own video. So we're going to just talk about our first night in Paris, actually, for today, which was actually a little bit scary and nerve-wracking. Stay tuned. So it was all already kind of off to a stressful start because we had been missing so many trains from Amsterdam, and we ultimately ended up having to take a bus, and we got into Paris super late. It was like midnight. And we had lost our original Airbnb. I had put us in an Airbnb, very nice, with Eiffel Tower views for our first night because I was like, oh my gosh, our first night in Paris, I want us to have views of the Eiffel Tower. But he canceled us because we weren't able to make it in at the time that he was wanting us to make it in. Luckily, I had already booked an Airbnb in the suburbs also because we were wanting to go to Disney for the first 2 days that we were there in Paris. We were just going to spend our night in the city because we knew we were going to be getting in a little bit later, just not as late as we ended up actually getting in. All that said, we were just like, okay, we're just going to go straight to the suburban the suburban Airbnb. And so we got an Uber. Our Uber driver was cool. So the thing is, he didn't really speak much English or Spanish. Both of us speak English and Spanish, which is a little bit more flexible in Europe. But we're in France. We had been trying to learn some survival French because the thing is, we were only going to be there for 5 days. We had so many countries on our list that even though my personal philosophy is it's always better to learn local language and really participate in local culture to some degree, we honestly, the best we could manage to learn for the time that we were going to be there was very basic phrases. And our cab driver only spoke, I think French was even his second language. He was an immigrant from, I'm not sure where, I'm not going to make assumptions, but I'm pretty sure that he was an immigrant whose second language was French, so that was an extra language barrier on top of everything else. But he was really sweet. He offered us water, which I'm just going to say, little safety tip, that's one of those hospitality things that the person could totally mean 100% well, but you probably just shouldn't drink the water. Check the seal, and yeah, just don't do it. They might be totally sweet, but the one time they aren't, it's not worth it. But yeah, so Angel is telling me in Spanish, he's like, don't drink the water, no. And I said, I know. And then the guy, because, we couldn't really chat and communicate because of the language barrier, he did manage through the language barrier to figure out where we were from. And I was telling him, I'm American, and my friend here is Peruvian. And the cab driver actually got really excited when we told him that Angel was Peruvian. He was like, oh, well, what is Peruvian music? And he took a big old tablet that he had hooked up to his stereo, and he was like, show me Peruvian music. So we ended up blasting this old school Peruvian music down the streets of Paris, and it was a vibe for sure. When we got to the location finally, it turned out to be the wrong thing. We had already gotten out of the Uber when we realized this, and we started to just kind of wander the suburbs, which was kind of nerve-wracking because what I had learned in my little bit of research was that apparently the Parisian suburbs can actually be worse than the inner city itself. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, are we in a safe area or not? Because I don't even know how to know what a safe area is here. And we didn't even know how to start going about finding the actual Airbnb because according to the map, we were there, but it definitely wasn't it. And we were wandering, and then the same Uber driver drove back up. And I guess he realized that we looked a little bit lost. Maybe whenever he dropped us off, he was like, that doesn't seem quite right. But he rolled his window down and was like, hey, do you need help? And the first time we said no. And I guess he was keeping an eye on us and didn't go too far. And he drove up again. He's like, please let me help you. And at that point, we looked at each other and we're like, we're super lost. We don't even know where we're trying to go. Let's just show him a picture of the building and like try to get this figured out. So we got back in there. By the way, we never re-registered with Uber. At this point, we're just going off the kindness of a stranger with an extreme language barrier. But he managed to figure it out, I guess. I mean, I'm not sure how long he had been in Paris, but he seemed a lot more familiar with how to read street signs and find apartments than we were as foreigners. And within 10 minutes, we were outside the gates of our Airbnb. We were so grateful because it was like a good 5 to 10 minute drive. So it would have taken us a very long time to ever walk up to that Airbnb if we would have actually even been able to know what direction to go into, which we didn't. But yeah, we even asked him, we were like, and just to give you some context, Angel does not like tipping. He gets frustrated with tipping culture and he's very stingy with those sorts of things. And he was the one that told me, Olivia, we have to give this guy something. Like, we need to compensate him. He's been very good. We were telling ourselves this, like, as we were pulling up into the Airbnb. And so we put a little bit of euros together because we didn't have much euros yet. Because Amsterdam, I think, was pretty much just using the card. There wasn't a lot of cash there. And we got him, I don't remember how many euros, and he did not want to take it. He genuinely had just wanted to help us. And again, like I said, he was not registered with Uber for this drive, so he was getting nothing out of the 10 minutes that he helped us out. And we just begged him. We made like begging faces. And eventually he took the money. But the problems didn't stop there. So the instructions for this Airbnb were just so very not clear. It was actually an apartment complex, and it was one apartment in an apartment complex, but they had marked it oddly, so we actually ended up by the wrong door, and all of a sudden there were all these dogs barking, and we ran away. And we were hiding out in the courtyard because we were like, oh my gosh, somebody probably just thought that we were trying to break into their house. Which one of these is even the Airbnb? And we're out there and it's like 2 a.m, pitch black, and we're just terrified. And I got even more scared because I realized that Angel was scared because he holds my face like this and he says, it's okay, we're gonna be okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's scared too. But we just pulled up the instructions again. Also, our phones are dying now. So we're like, even if we wanted to go somewhere else, we didn't know how we would go about doing that because our phones were almost dead. But as the phone was still alive, we were reading the instructions, looking at all the pictures again, and finally we managed to match one of the references to a utility closet where the key was hidden, and the utility closet was right by the actual apartment. So we got in, and oh my gosh. We both called our parents. Angel picked me up and was like spinning me around because he was just so happy that we were actually okay, because we did not know what we were going to do if we couldn't figure out how to get into that apartment. But crisis averted, we survived, and then it was time for Disney for 2 days and then the actual city of Paris. But I'm going to leave you there today because I just wanted a whole video dedicated to the craziness of our beginnings in Paris, and also to give that cab driver a little shout out. I wish I knew your name. I know that there's no way you would be watching this video because as far as I know, you probably still don't speak English. But merci. That's basically all the French I've got. And yeah, for all of you watching, I hope that you tune back in for next week when we talk about Paris at large. I'm going to kind of try to frame it as is Paris worth it? Is Paris overhyped? Because I know that that's a big question that people have, and I kind of have some room to talk about it now. All right. Well, you have a beautiful weekend. Make sure that you've got that bell on so you can see next time I post one of these story times. And also, if you're interested, I'm going to be doing a house tour this weekend of my $200 a month rental that I share with my roommates down here in Alabama. So be looking out for that as well. I hope that this weekend is beautiful for you. I don't know when the Olympics are over, but talking about Paris made me think about it. So if they are still going on and that's your thing, I hope you enjoy watching them. And we'll see each other next time. Bye! Hey there, you stuck around after the credit scene, huh? Alright, well, new internet bestie here, or returning internet bestie maybe. I feel like there's a couple of you that are already subscribed that know to watch the very end, so shout out to you. It's been a bit of a hectic week, but I'm glad to be making, wow, I think this is my 12th story time. So yay for dedication and commitment. We have so many more to go. We haven't even made it to India yet. I hope you continue enjoying these and that I can keep increasing the quality for you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for real.